welcome. We are calling this Cut Ups episode 5.1. We ran out of time yesterday digging into the defense of Michigan football against Indiana. A lot to look at. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the offense. Again, same kind of deal, tale of two halves, right? Some things that did not go well for Michigan, some corrections they made, and we'll take a look at that and maybe kind of hypothesize what we think this means moving forward. So, obviously, joined by the Cut Ups film man himself, the Wizard, Osentoski. How you doing, brother?
The Wizard. Oh man,
it's gonna stick.
I need to update the. I need to update this from video specialist to
Wizard.
To Wizard.
Yeah,
that's a wicked name.
I might have to do some photo editing. Get you a little hat.
Yeah, give me a wand. Give me a little wand while I'm doing it. But no, man, it's things are going well. I'm excited to dive in here. It wasn't all bad, right? I think there was a lot more frustration with the defense in the first half than there was initially with the offense. I think the second quarter as a whole, lots of frustration, especially in the run game, and just kind of the balance of the game overall. So I think there's a lot to learn here. So I'm excited.
For sure. And let's get this out of the way. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Obviously, the Mike Hart situation had an impact, right? We're here to look at film and talk about scheme and numbers and stuff. So try and take some of the emotion out of it. We can hypothesize on all of that or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're just kind of trying to look at what schemes Michigan was running, what they were executing, and how they adjusted to the Indiana game plan. So I guess let's go ahead and dive right in here. So obviously the first drive started out well, right?
Yeah, and this is really the main play where it's Blake Corum just doing Blake Corum things. He just Houdinis his way out of it. Not sure how this wasn't called a touchdown, honestly. I mean, right here, right? It seems like he gets across, but regardless.
Did they even look at it? I don't remember.
They didn't look at it. I think Michigan hurried up to the line and just barreled it in. So they didn't really look at it. We do have a better angle here. Let's look at the at this angle here down the line of scrimmage. So give credit to Indiana. Again, I feel like they were well scouted in this game, and they do a complicated job on the defensive line, really messing with Michigan's blocks. You'll see this inside sort of gap scheme that Indiana's running here, just kind of muddying the waters on the blocks. And Luke Schoonmaker, a name I'll be calling out quite a bit, especially in the first half here, had a rough time with some of his blocks, right? So these linebackers are firing out extremely quickly. As soon as they see Blake Corum doing this sort of stretch motion here, they are firing these gaps really, really quickly because you have these two defensive lines shooting the B gap and A gap here. This linebacker has responsibility for right between Schoonmaker and Ryan Hayes right here, and he's going to shoot that gap. So that's issue number one on the blocking here. Schoonmaker gets just a little bit too wide, right? You see that gap right here. That's too much for this linebacker. He does a good job selling the outside before cutting up here, but that immediately puts this play in a bind, right? Another good thing here, it's a good angle from this safety, right? He has kind of this outside B gap right here, or D gap, I should say, or really E gap with how wide he's going out here. But he does a good job getting space, kind of cutting that off. And then based on Michigan's tendencies, they were sending corner blitz quite a bit. So you have the far outside, you have the safety crashing down here, and you have this linebacker shooting this gap between your tight end and left tackle. And all of that spells doom on this play, right? Boom. As soon as you get here, Schoonmaker's not able to pick up that block. Number 5 is right there. And then you have both the backside linebacker and the safety and cornerback all converging here, right? Because of the release here, underrated play from this defensive tackle, because they're shooting inside like this doesn't allow a free release for Oluwatimi to this backside linebacker. He kind of chips your center a little bit, and that holds up Oluwatimi from getting depth, getting out there, taking that angle, and he loses, right? He doesn't have the leverage to get there. So really, you got 4 bodies here ready to pick up Corum on this outside sort of stretch play. And this is just Blake Corum doing Blake Corum things, right? This is dead to rights. And if you pause right here and you tell me that Blake Corum's getting down to the 1 yard line, I'm going to call you a crazy man, right? And I think most people would say you're insane. Like the only other time I can remember a guy making a play out of this sort of look is like Jabril Peppers, and even he didn't have these sort of flashy plays like Blake Corum does. So for him to stop on a dime like that, cut field, right, use that momentum of these two defenders against them, right? They're over pursuing appropriately so, right, with how this play is going. And I don't know if this lineman is pointing out like, hey, he's cutting back or what, but it seems like it seemed like he was just running. But I mean, that's just elite running back play, right? Making something out of nothing, turning this into a huge chunk play. Give credit to number 1 here for Indiana for rushing down the field, and give credit to number 0 for continuing down the field, make the tackle. I think it was still a touchdown. They called it down at the 1, but I mean, this is well defended and well executed from Indiana. It's just when you have a truly elite level athlete in Blake Corum, he can do that.
Filthy.
Just crazy. So it wasn't all bad, right? Like, this is first drive. Get your explosive player in space. I wouldn't call this a whole lot of space, but he made a play here and set Michigan up well at the goal line.
Toski, real quick, and you might be able to explain this better than I do, but I think it's important to point out Indiana's defensive line strategy here because it was pretty prevalent throughout the whole game. If you know you have a mismatch disadvantage, right? You're not stronger, you're not faster, you're not necessarily the better athlete against a better offensive line. You want to try and get sideways on the line, right? Or almost go to gaps you're not supposed to. Things like that to kind of create confusion on the line. I thought this play right here was a good example of that, where Indiana's not looking to take a one-on-one matchup on they don't think they can win. They're looking to slide vertically. Like, the whole line's moving and they say, okay, we're going to stay where we are.
Yeah, and when you're like you said, outsized, out athleticized, I don't know if that's the correct term here.
Yeah.
But what you're doing here is you're messing with the gap responsibility, right?
Right.
Michigan at this point doesn't really know what's the gap responsibility here. Does he have this gap? When he cuts inside, what that does with this knowledge of Indiana only knows which way these defensive linemen are going to go. From any given play, they could go a different way. But what this allows them is they send their linebackers on a certain path, right, to a certain gap, and sort of take that hesitancy out of it. When you take hesitancy into the play on defense, what do you rely on? Athleticism. You rely on your speed. If you don't have speed, the only way that you can really get that advantage is by messing with your keys, messing with the keys of the offense, and giving a little bit more exotic of a look on gap responsibility. So because of that, you can react really quickly to something like this because of the call. You don't really need to read and react. You have your gap and you can rush there with a little bit more reckless abandon. So it kind of gives you a little bit more boom bust for Indiana because you're not really reacting all that much here, right? You have your certain gap responsibility and you're able to get there a little bit faster as a result of that. So by doing that, by messing with the block IDs here for Michigan, it also just makes some of these responsibilities, like I said, of Oluwatimi getting to the second level here, just makes that a little bit more difficult. This guy shooting inside, you're not really expecting that based off of his alignment, that you're going to have to sort of redirect around that defensive tackle, right? So just little things like that where guys are where you don't expect them to be, half a second after the snap, and that can throw a lot of things off when it comes to execution. So it doesn't matter if you're a better athlete or a better you got more speed, got a larger size. When things are confusing up front, that's going to cause you to second guess yourself on offense. And that's exactly what IU is throwing at you on each and every down. But hey, sometimes it works, right? And that's when you got a Blake Corum, that's what it can look like sometimes. All right, moving on, 2nd and 6 here. Again, this is Michigan has a tendency out of the pistol to run the ball. I think it was 11
That
times.
is an understatement.
Yeah, 11 out of 11 times. And not to go too deep into tendencies, every team has tendencies. It's about strategically breaking them. That's what makes or breaks your offense, really. And Michigan is either unaware of that or was not really willing to break those tendencies against Indiana. Whether you defend that, whether you don't like it, it is what it is. But Indiana, I think, is a well-scouted team here and definitely clued into this. So out of pistol, right, and off of this run action, you see this cornerback immediately crashing down, and that's big. Anytime that there's this sort of run action, right, Michigan has shown 11 out of 11 times in this game it turned up that this is going to be where the ball is going, right? So even if you have a call out here to block, having this guy scream you down on a corner blitz, that's going to be a tough ID for any of your defense or of your wide receivers to pick that up. So it's a really tough play. That guy ultimately makes the tackle in the backfield. So that's just really difficult to defend against. Another couple things here. Give a lot of credit to this defensive tackle. He just shoots upfield extremely quickly and really blows back who is that? Your left guard there, Trevor Keegan, quite a bit, and not able to really give any sort of avenue for Donovan Edwards, right? So because of those two things, all of these first steps of these offensive linemen you can see are kind of getting around this, right? This is just, no one's really pulling here. This is just stretch left here. When you have a guy going straight vertical while you're trying to get horizontal here and get space horizontally, having a guy knifing through that gap between the center and guard there, or actually I think he's between the, right there, it's between the center and guard. That's really tough, right? When you're moving horizontally and you have a guy just getting right into your hip there, really at the lower hip there of Keegan, it's understandable that that's going to rock you back. So I think this is also just a good call from Indiana that out of pistol, hey, we need to get depth here, right? We need to, out of this look, they generally run stretch, it seems, that they were prepared for. So doing that, getting that sort of explosiveness into the backfield, you don't have many options here if you're Donovan Edwards, right? He's going to want to bounce this. This is where the play is supposed to be anyways. You can see it's actually pretty well set up otherwise. But because of this depth, he has to bounce this a little bit outside, and that plays right into this corner blitz, and it's dead on arrival. So again, all it takes, kind of what we saw on the other side, where a lot of the screens only really took one or two players making the play right on a screen, just one or two wide receivers blocking for Indiana's offense. On this, all you really need, if that defensive tackle can push that guard back and force this run to bubble just a little bit, and that cornerback is appropriately firing on a pistol formation, that's two players, right? Those two players make that play, and it results in, a 5-yard loss on 2nd and 6. Now you're 3rd and long. That's huge for Indiana's defense.
Yeah, you're cutting cutting the field in half for them.
Yeah.
And then the two safeties back are still setting for a second in case there's a JJ bootleg there to his favorite side. But yeah, it's good play design, good play call, just blowing up from the get-go.
Yeah. So I think a lot of other issues here, we're just not seeing enough of these sorts of tendency breakers, right? Where this play action looked really, really easy, right? And you can see just how hard Indiana was really firing on this sort of play action, right? Look at the linebackers. Look at all of this is, again, a stretch look, right? And just look at the sheer reaction of the entire defense really for Indiana, right? Everyone is firing down with reckless abandon, right? Everyone is sold that this is where it's going. So you have all of these real second-level athletes for Indiana. They're all firing downhill really quickly, and that's something that that Michigan, I feel like, didn't really take advantage of enough, right? If we pause right here, you got three guys that are glaringly wide open, right? Boom, boom, and boom. His read is probably outside in, and this is definitely open. So he makes the right, JJ McCarthy makes the right move, throwing that good trajectory on the ball over the defensive back. It's a really good play. Just a question, why didn't we see this enough, right? This boot action, punishing those linebackers, right? Those linebackers are in no position to guard this tight end across the middle. There's a huge gap there, and you really have three options to throw the ball here on this sort of play action. So I think this is another, common frustration I think a lot of fans had of, they're selling out against the run, right? They want to stop Blake Corum. They know he's a weapon. Obviously, after that first drive, it's an appropriate move. So I feel like Michigan didn't go back to this enough, this hard boot action, and it's something that they could have. So, this is just an example of this was there, and just didn't really see enough of it in the first half here.
Yeah, JJ's adjusted completion percentage, so taking out drops basically, on throws under 20 yards with no pressure is 94%.
Yeah.
Like the dude lives in this zone, so give it to him, right?
Right.
It's just, and we'll see more of it. And again, another tendency thing, Colston Loveland's on this one, pass. When it's Joel Honford, run. Right. True. So I know you're taking advantage of skill sets of players, obviously the Eric All injury, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's just things Michigan, and, getting into a bigger game like Penn State, maybe that's where they start to flip against the tendencies a little bit and use that against their opponents. It's something Michigan's done in the past. But yeah, when you see something like this work so well, it's like, give me more.
Yeah. It's also something when you see all of not just the linebackers, but also the defensive backs here also firing up this far. and this hard on the edge here. I'm also kind of shocked. Obviously this is a boot action out here with all of your routes taking you kind of flooding to this side, right? Clear out, and then Ronnie Bell a little bit deeper here. So it makes sense to have this. I'm shocked based off of the action here that they didn't just kind of post up here, right? Because look, this is the only guy that can really react to that. So even just doing this initial motion, you don't even have to carry out this fake too long. Just turn around, plant, right? Just do like a little, make sure he blocks off the edge. Just give this initial turn your back and then just post up. And you'll have a little leak here, a little almost like a tight end wheel action, and this is your only defender in space. So again, these are things might be in the playbook that you can pull out later on, right? You might see that later in the season, but little things like that I think the reaction to Corum and having a guy like Blake Corum with how productive he's been, that's going to set you up well. It's just, again, Michigan hopefully is paying attention to those reactions and breaks tendencies in more opportune times against teams that, maybe it's a little more useful to break those tendencies against.
Good play, but Toski says, I had a Scooney touchdown there. What are you doing?
That's what I'm saying. All right, here, I think this is, I think some of the play calling, there was some qualms about that, and I think those are valid. This one I think is more about execution and following your blocks. Okay, you're bringing your tight end Bredesen across the formation, and this I don't really agree with the cutback that Donovan Edwards is making here, right? So again, this first step, a lot of these sort of outside zones is split zone looking action here for Michigan here. It's designed to work the outside here, kind of going behind your blocks here, right? All the first step here of your offensive lineman is getting horizontal, working your head across here, and trying to get work outside there, get some space on that sort of zone blocking. The issue here is Donovan Edwards does see a crease here, but he fails to expect this linebacker to stay home, right? So it's actually probably a better play than that linebacker that I'm giving him credit for, right? Because your backside linebacker is 44 here, and he is working far across. So it's reasonable for Donovan Edwards, the more I think about it, to expect this back crease to be open since you see this backside linebacker playing this way. The issue is this linebacker was actually staying home and is there to actually make the tackle. So give credit to Indiana for that guy, being heads up and getting that gap responsibility, covering for his other linebacker. So I think, maybe a little bit more patience here for Donovan Edwards. You can understand why he saw that crease and took it, but maybe you could see a little bit more patience, right? You have good initial blocks here. It looks like Trevor Keegan's getting some depth. A little bit of a stalemate here from Hayes, but he's getting there. Got a tight end, and then just follow Bredesen, right? I might want to see Edwards maybe cut here to maybe try to get a little bit of a reaction here, right? If this is Blake Corum, he might do that little hop step here to get these guys to commit and see this possible crease, right? Before then following his block to the outside. Just a little bit like that, where right at this point when he makes that decision, it seems like it's a little muddy, right? There may be that crease there, but he simply doesn't see this linebacker, and this linebacker hasn't committed yet. So I think maybe just a little bit slower, a little bit more patience, right? It's okay to stop and take stock in what the reaction of this linebacker will be, and also put this guy in question as well, right? Neither of these guys have committed to the reaction of this run play yet, and your block really hasn't developed to the outside here as well. So I think Donovan Edwards, I can see why he would have made that cut and saw that crease. But that linebacker hasn't committed yet, and Donovan Edwards at this point when he made his final decision hadn't given that linebacker a chance to commit. So that's next level, right? And that's something that I think Blake Corum is exceptional at. It's one of the things that make him as elite as he is. Donovan Edwards just seemingly isn't there. Maybe he will get there in the future, but something that just take that next level, right? That patience that really makes you into that sort of running back.
I was surprised a little with the lack of misdirection and counter. And, it's rare that you see, when you have that motion tight end and the whole line shading that direction, that Donovan's just following that. So that created some of the muddy. But yeah, you're 100% right. Another good play from Indiana, maybe a bad decision from Michigan. And let's be honest, from a fan perspective, the run up the middle is the Mr. Hindsight best play, right? If
True.
it works, great call. If you run it up the middle and it doesn't go well, why are you running it up the middle, right? So, but in this situation, yeah, there's definitely mistakes to be learned from.
Right. And I also don't think this is necessarily like the best block from Bredesen, right? He's not really making the job that much easier on Donovan Edwards as well. So I think he probably could have followed him as well, but you'd like to see a little bit more commitments from your tight end on this block as well, right? Because this is still, he's not sure if he's going to work through like behind the butt of your left tackle here. Is he working around outside? And he never really does, right? So I think there's just a little bit of execution and timing that could have been done a little bit better for multiple people in that play. So is what it is. Moving on to the next play here, 3rd and 8. JJ McCarthy here throws a pass into an area where there are 2 wide receivers here. So just a little bit, again, just a little bit awkwardness in terms of execution here, right? Good initial blitz pickup, some pressure coming late. Good job from Zinter not holding there at the end. He does lose 65 here, does lose leverage. So there is a little bit of pressure late, but I would say has given enough time here for JJ McCarthy to step into his throw here. The issue is you got 2 guys in the same spot, right? And that's never something that you want looking at the route tree. I think the main issue here is probably your tight end. So you have a guy going out to the flat here. I think your tight end here is supposed to be doing an out route right around the sticks. That's what would make sense to me. And then you have Ronnie Bell sort of as that third option, right? So you kind of have your 3 options here running to this side of the field, and that's what you're looking at. On that side, on the top side, right, you're not really initially reading that, but you have a sort of stick route here heading to the sideline, and then I think Andrel Anthony is running what seems to be a little in route there. So yeah, I think the issue here is Loveland not recognizing that this sort of alignment for this defensive back is going to be a problem, right? He has outside leverage here. Loveland needs to understand that, hey, if I'm trying to work over the top of this, that's going to make my job really difficult to get here, right? And you have to understand, if you are this tight end, your job is not only to get to this spot, but to not impede the area of another route, right? If 2 of you are in one area, that's no benefit to anybody. You're bringing multiple defenders to possibly break up the pass, right? So what I would like to do here, while it may not be the crispest of routes here, you need to possibly make a move here to try to get this guy a little bit over here before you're making your cut here. You might have to turn into a little bit of a different route, right? But with this route combination, especially working to the inside before getting outside, 1, that's going to take too long, and 2, you're going to be taking yourself, like I said, into another route. So that's just not really a good decision. Again, he's young, right? So when it comes to execution, right, you see that contact there with the defensive back. Maybe if you want to really argue, right, with these refs, call defensive holding, right, for rerouting that as much as that defensive back did. But I think that's just inexperience, right, of understanding what the impact and what the implications of being put off of your route will have on the overall play. And I don't know exactly where the eyes here for JJ McCarthy are. It looks like he's trying to read this safety, if I'm looking correctly. It seems like he recognizes that on this route, you have what you want. So it seems like that's initially what he's reading. He moves his eyes over to check the area. He's not expecting Loveland to be there. I think his first read is checking that defensive back on Ronnie Bell, sees what he likes, and there just happens to be a Loveland there in the same area. So to me, that's what I'm expecting here, based off of the tendency of Indiana, right? They're manned up, so it's reasonable to expect this guy won't be a part of it. This guy, when taken out of here, he won't be a part of it. If you get what you usually have out of Indiana, right here, there should be a lot of area, especially with this amount of space here between Ronnie Bell and that defensive back. So it seemed like it would have been there, right? It's just a matter of, again, just one player there, Loveland, not really executing at that the best level there, kind of threw that off, but hard to say if this ball would have been accurate as well, right? Because of Loveland being there, Ronnie Bell definitely had to check up here to not run into those bodies. So it does seem to be like a little in front of Ronnie Bell. But again, the timing of this, the execution was just off a little bit from multiple players, and unfortunately that brings up fourth down here.
Yeah, Loveland's got to see the hips of the corner there and know what's going on. He ends up 9 yards deep of where he should be on the route. And then, yeah, JJ gets a hand in his face from a defender, kind of rushes the throw, does a little sidearm action, So, yeah, snowball. One thing goes wrong and then just kind of connects and ruins the whole play.
And one thing from Shadyville here, he asked, should have went to Andrel on that play. That's not the first read, though, right? So, like, in hindsight, top of your screen, is Andrel Anthony open? Yeah, possibly. But you have to think of where are you really looking for this for your first read here, right? With this sort of alignment, you got a single high safety.
He gets caught by the stunt, too. If he had a little bit more time, maybe he backs off his read.
Exactly.
But that stunt forces the throw.
Yeah, but with this route combo, right, you got man here, single high safety. This looks really open. And with Ronnie Bell, one of your best wide receivers, right, when that's open, you're going to throw that. So even though in hindsight, with more time, yeah, maybe Andre Anthony would have been open there. But when your first read's there and you throw to that, you can't really expect the quarterback to do anything different than that. Okay, on to the next play here. 2nd and 6, 10-10 at this point. We're in the second quarter. And this is, again, just credit to Indiana and also not a great block from multiple players here on the outside. So you got kind of this bunch formation on the top of your screen here. And I think this is a misidentification of block from Schoonmaker, okay? And the reason I say that is Schoonmaker's a tight end, and he decides to take this defensive back, this cornerback, right? Instead, I believe he should be going out to this front side linebacker, and that would leave this wide receiver for Ronnie Bell. Instead, what actually happens, let's move the tape forward a little bit. Schoonmaker's going to take the cornerback, and Ronnie Bell takes the safety, right? And just from a schematic standpoint, not sure how this really makes sense, right? You got a much larger tight end who's going to, with the quickness of a cornerback, sure, you like that size advantage, but you would like the matchup a little bit better of a tight end on a linebacker. And then if you do block this, Ronnie Bell is either going up against a linebacker, which doesn't make sense, or he's going out to this safety, which leaves an unimpeded linebacker into exactly where this play is going, right? So that's why I think the outside blocking here between Schoonmaker and Ronnie Bell is really what kind of dooms that play. You see that linebacker exactly that I was pointing out is the guy who makes the tackle here, right? And there's nobody else that you can reasonably expect to get out there based on the front side blocking here. You do have a double team here, so I'm expecting one of these linemen to work to the backside linebacker, one-on-one blocking here. And again, if you block appropriately where you got Schoonmaker getting to the linebacker, Ronnie Bell here, then it's really a one-on-one battle between your safety and your running back here, right? So to me, that's what makes most sense here. And I think it's just misidentification on the outside. And this one isn't really to do with anything on the defensive line, right? This is just identification from the onset. So it looks like initially as well with the eyes, you can kind of see Ronnie Bell. It seems like he's looking at this cornerback as well. Like they're both kind of initially identifying him, and then Ronnie Bell is then working around, right? So again, it's just awkwardness, right? And that one missed thing, and Schoonmaker also misses that block, right? So you have two guys here really able to flow to the outside of that tackle and make that contact right around the line of scrimmage. So again, sometimes it's not really executing from a route perspective. Sometimes it's misidentifying blocks, and it just comes down to execution from a couple players, and that's all it takes for play to go sideways. And if this was well blocked, maybe you're looking at 3rd and 3. Now you're looking at 3rd and 6, and that closes the playbook on a little bit more than you would want to as the offense.
Yeah, another play with Honigford in there. They're stacked to the short side of the field. It's pure execution, right? If it goes well, then I'm not talking about that tendency, but just something to notice.
Yeah, good call out. Okay, looking into 3rd and 5 here. And this is just another play where you had a guy just not executing at the level that I feel like we've seen Michigan execute in the past here. So you have your guy right now with Henning, right? So you're running this, just the two real quick routes to look at. You have this sort of sit route here and up the seam for your tight end, and you're hoping that seam route here, you're really paying attention to this Indiana player to see what his reaction is, if this linebacker will continue to take this or if this sit route is right here. I think you should be throwing this right now, right? The distance between these two players is enough to give A.J. Henning the ball here and be able to catch that. I think the issue here also is it seems like his arm got hit here, right? So it's also not a great job from a pass protection point of view for Michigan, right? Where is Keegan going, right? Why is your left guard here? He is chasing, right? So you're picking this up. It seems like Michigan expected this guy to be looping around, and that's what Keegan is expecting. If we move forward here, just the eyes of Keegan, right? He's looking and really reaching for this when he really shouldn't be, right? You look at where the pressure is coming from, and you have a linebacker and your left tackle here. Your left guard's nowhere to be found with this additional pressure, right? So that's, again, just lack of execution affecting this play. Where if you did have Keegan in there, right, he'd be able to pick up one of these two guys and really be able to help here. The additional issue is if you are a running back, right, we're picking on Donovan Edwards a little bit here as well. Where should your eyes be? You should be scanning inside and then out, right? So if he's scanning inside here, he should see this giant gap that this Indiana player has, right? You're kind of in no man's land if you're the left tackle. He has identified this guy. So there's a guy here to pick up on the inside if you're Donovan Edwards, and it's right here. Block that off, right? This guy sure is a potential issue, but that's later. That's later. This is your immediate pickup, and he just kind of oways him and goes to the outside. As a result of that, that allows the arm for J.J. McCarthy to get hit, right? So could this been thrown a little bit earlier? Yeah, absolutely. I think right now you should be throwing that to A.J. Henning, right? Know the down and distance, 3rd and 5. Trust that your playmaker will be able to make that up in space. And because of that pressure, that arm looks like it gets hit right there. And that's why this pass sails a little bit. So again, it's a combination. That left guard kind of going out in no man's land, failure to pick up the pass protection from Donovan Edwards, and a little bit late of a throw here from J.J. McCarthy. And when you combine those three things, right, then bad things can happen, and Michigan has to punt once again.
This play I stumbled onto when I was doing my stock report because I felt like I was picking on Keegan because his grading was so bad. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got to see what's going on here. This play is bizarre. Yeah. Like, he's borderline. If you go back to the other camera view, I think he's an eligible receiver downfield. Look how far downfield he gets. Because even when it's, I don't know. It was a really, he's still pushing there, like running with the guy. Yeah. So, I don't know what he was looking for over there, why he took off. It's an awkward thing to stay home and block nobody, but that's your assignment sometimes. In this case, he would have had somebody to block, but he immediately starts running for it. Was really weird. Just really weird play from him there.
Yeah, it's something that maybe your center called that out. Maybe when they have this sort of look, they traditionally do loop this. But I'm with you to continue to chase, right? It's usually stay home and keep your eyes over there. To go out and chase like that, it almost seems like he had the wrong call, right?
100%.
So that's not something you really see out of Keegan. So a lot of these things are just like, it's just kind of weird, right? So just off in a lot of different ways and a lot of different players. So let's get to a couple more here for the offense before getting to the second half, because there were good things. This again, let's not spend a whole lot of time on this. We can nail this down just to one block, right? Another tendency. Whenever Michigan runs in motion, they're running the ball more often than not. One thing about this tendency, when you run motion, usually that changes the defensive backs or the defensive coverage, right? So why would Michigan only run out of motion sets, right? Because a more static defense is easier for your quarterback to read, right? When you run guys in motion, you go into pass coverage. That pass coverage could change with the motion of a given wide receiver or tight end. That makes the job of a quarterback a little bit easier, right? J.J. McCarthy still getting up to speed. So that's another tendency to pay attention to that Indiana seemingly had pretty downloaded here. But the issue, not good blocking here from your tight end again. And Schoonmaker, generally pretty good blocker, right? But we can just nail this down to this linebacker screaming off the edge, right? Another stretch play, and Schoonmaker not picking that up, right? If we just hone in on that right here, he just lets him through, right? Not great. Too big of a gap, right? Look at that gap between your left tackle and your tight end. Never want to be pointing your hips this way. And also, if we look at that cornerback, right, what's that cornerback doing? He is flying down. So even if this block is relatively well picked up, this is a really tough job for your wide receiver ever to pick up that block when he's firing off that quick, that immediately, right? So that's tough. It seemed like it had a lot of promise, but again, Indiana was firing off extremely quickly in these sorts of looks, and just not a great job from your tight end there. You need to close that gap. He's reaching there, right? And really you should be working off the hip. Stay connected, right? He's doing a good job of staying connected with that right arm right here. Just stay there. I get it that you want to continue going up this way, but stay connected. Don't give him that gap, right? He's not just going to continue outside. You have to react to him sometimes. And he just leaves that gap way too much for that linebacker, and you're in trouble, right? So just a couple things, again, of just Indiana understanding the tendencies, reacting quickly to those tendencies, and Michigan not able to execute on what I would consider pretty rudimentary blocks. So hopefully they'll get that cleaned up in the next week.
Yeah, this is just what we talked about earlier, though, with Indiana, the defensive tackle running down the offensive line, not into, and just creating some confusion for the line, and then just stumbles. And yeah, I mean, the Schoonmaker block makes the whole play. You're right. But just another example of the offensive line, like, wait, why are you running that direction?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Okay. Third and goal here. This was a well-blocked play up front, right? Lots of time for J.J. McCarthy. Max protect, only a couple guys out. Not going to go through really too much here. Just you had a guy, right? You had some space for Henning. And this one I put a little bit more on J.J. McCarthy than anybody else, right? Plenty of time here. Initial routes, we're looking here. Not a whole lot, right? Not a whole lot in terms of where you can go with the ball. Indiana is dropping – what is that, 7? They got 7 defensive backs there. So it's understandable, right? When you're in max protect, Indiana's dropping 7. You're not going to have anything right there. But he finds A.J. Henning, makes a good move back to the inside. Look at all this space, right? All this space back here. This is really the only guy. You can loft this up, right? The idea here, you don't really need to rifle this into a spot. This guy's a couple steps behind. If you put it high but loft it up over here, that's a lot of space open for your wide receiver to work towards, right? So give him that space. You don't really need to rifle it in there. That's a really tough catch for a wide receiver in the back of the end zone there. Just loft it up, right? I think A.J. Henning got enough separation there, cutting back towards the center of the field there. It was a good move. Quarterback's got to help him out a little bit in taking advantage of that open space that he finds.
Yeah, it was supposed to go to Cornelius early. I don't know if we can tell without the all-22. Something weird happened over there. It looked like he thought he got held, and that's where JJ's looking the whole time before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when the opportunity arises, like you said, props to Henning for coming back. Just JJ's been better this year about knowing when to throw the changeup. We talked about that in previous episodes, and yeah, he Absolutely. Just rifled that one in there.
Okay, I think we got 2 more plays in the first half, and then a handful to get through in the second half. This one, again, give a lot of credit to Indiana. This guy just makes a play. And this guy, I mean the nose tackle. So watch him. He's going to just dive through and able to really just blow up this play completely there. Just swims around Oluwatimi, and he's exactly where the hole has formed, right? Oluwatimi falls. That holds up Zinter a little bit from getting to the second level, right? He's not able to get to the linebacker. And then the nose tackle is able to get back up, establish himself, and this linebacker is also there to support to make that play. So again, for things to go wrong, all it takes are 1 or 2 players making a play. And on this one, Indiana does that, right? And that's 3rd and 2. That's Michigan trying to drive down the field late in the first half to get a lead, and that sets up 4th and a couple here.
You're just reminding me of an old coach of mine. Always said football is 11 one-on-one matchups, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's all it is. And then here we are, 4th and 2. And this is just not a good block from your wide receiver, right? Frustrating play. I feel like we've seen this a lot, even heading into last year. This is all about get on this guy's butt, okay? Just get on this guy's butt. The only way this play is made from anybody on the outside here is if there is a gap. If there is a gap here, that's the only way that they can get around the edge. and get that, right? And the issue here is a couple. Obviously, the offensive line is going to react quicker than a wide receiver, but Ronnie Bell is late out of his stance. So is your tight end a little bit, right? You look at just the initial punch of all of the offensive linemen, they're already moving. Ronnie Bell is barely out of his stance. So is Schoonmaker. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is the trajectory, right? It's a good job of Schoonmaker closing this gap, right? He's trying to close this gap right here. He's doing a decent enough job getting on the hip here of Honigford. But Ronnie Bell is going upfield when really his objective should just be cut this off, right? You're just looking to cut off, form this sort of wedge, and let Blake Corum barrel in. Instead of cutting this off, he's going upfield, and that gives, again, enough of a gap of this defensive back to cut through. You're reaching again, right? There's no need to reach here. Throw your body across, right? Even if you have to just barrel into Schoonmaker, right? Barrel into him, cut him off, force him to go through you, and that's going to give enough time for Blake Corum. He doesn't do that. Instead, he goes upfield, takes a bad angle, reaches, and that guy makes a play. So again, we're just talking about one guy on each play. That's all it takes to blow up a play like that. So it's frustrating. Fourth down in enemy territory late in the half, and you're leaving plays like this, and you're going to halftime in a tie ball game. It's not what you want.
It's frustrating because I've watched enough Corum to see that cut plant to know exactly where he's going to the left side there. Like, if that guy's blocked, look at the lane he's got between Hayes and Keegan there.
Yeah, you could see him get through that.
Or continue outside or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you can see a lot, right? These guys have committed. Blake Corum, you like him in that matchup. If this guy is not here, you like him to be able to make something work out of this, at least pick up the first down. So yeah, just frustrating, man. And that's the thing where it's just one player here and there in Indiana making a good play here and there. And they did that at timely downs. Third down, fourth down. Michigan wasn't able to put enough together to get more than 10 points. When it felt like they should.
Let's see some positives, Toski.
Yeah, here we go. 3rd and 8. Starting the half a little bit scary. And this is just a nice pass here to Ronnie Bell across the middle. So good protection here, right? You're in your own end zone here. And this is just a good read coming off of the initial read. I think this is probably the second read here for J.J. McCarthy. It looks like he's checking to see the reaction of this safety going over the top as well as this guy vacating. And then he's going to come off of this, and he's going to have this sort of crossing route here from Ronnie Bell. So good initial pass protection, only sending 4 for Indiana. But you see there's Ronnie Bell after noticing them vacating this sort of look for Indiana. It looks like the eyes then shift. What is the reaction here on the tight end? Is he manned up? Yes. Then after his initial read, right, he saw these guys vacating, these guys backing up. Then he's checking his tight end. This guy is manned up here, right? Either this guy will be dropping to pick up your tight end, or he's going to be sort of in this area for any sort of crossing route. So that second read here gives the knowledge of J.J. McCarthy saying that, okay, this area is going to be pretty open here. I can expect Ronnie Bell to be there. And you don't always need to throw across the sticks every single time. But when you have adequate space like this with a good route combination of clearing out different personnel with your weapons here, then you're fine throwing this, 3-4 yards down the field. But just look at all that open space for a guy like Ronnie Bell, one of the best yards after the catch artisans in the game, right? So this is something where I think Michigan really attacked across the middle of the field, really used Schoonmaker really well against the linebackers to almost act as kind of like that Sam linebacker of just clear out these linebackers, get them out of here, and give a lot of space for other players in that sort of space. And I think they turned to the pass quite a bit more on early downs. This is obviously 3rd down, but we'll see that as well. So it's good execution there, right? And that's the key term. Well executed, right? You got the routes where they're supposed to be. You're reading where the defense is going, throwing the ball on time, inaccurate, an accurate throw in front of Ronnie Bell where he can continue to make that run, right? Those little things that really give your offense the best opportunity to be successful. Pass protection was there, right? You add up all those things, that's a successful play. And Michigan didn't have that on 3rd downs a lot in the first half, had it on that one.
Yeah, I love that play call, the route tree design, different levels. We've talked about that issue on third down before. And then, if my quarterback can go through his progressions without moving his head because you've stacked the receivers like that, where obviously the one movement means the one underneath is open. It's just a great play design.
Yep. All right, moving into first down here. Again, we got kind of Blake Corum making things out of nothing here, but also give credit. I think the blocks overall were here. And good job getting to the second level. Actually, you know what? Now that I say that,
Barnhart whiffed
badly, right? But let's give a little bit credit to the tight end I was picking on here. You do have a good block here from Schoonmaker, right? Good block here, decent block here. If you get this block, then Corum could be much further down. He has to put on a move on this linebacker. So again, execution wasn't here, but when you don't have execution, you need a playmaker. Right? When you lack execution, you have a little bit of space like this, you rely on your playmaker, and that's just Blake Corum doing Blake Corum things. But if Schoonmaker isn't there, right? If Schoonmaker isn't making this block and edging this off, then you don't have any potential down the field, right? So Barnhart definitely needs to do better here. And then again, this is just making plays if you're Blake Corum, continuing down, making that. So you got to be a little thankful if you're a Michigan fan here, right? I almost call this like Kenneth Walker territory, where this shouldn't work. It shouldn't work, right? But that's the kind of playmaker that you have. So give credit to Blake Corum for doing that. This was not one of those times where execution was there, but hey, you make the most of a bad situation, right? So it is what it is.
I'm just gonna let that go.
You're going to let it go? Yeah. Hey, man, give Kenneth Walker a little bit of credit.
I do, but come on. I'm a little edgy about it. My Twitter timeline has been filled with the Kenneth Walker versus Hutchinson debate again, and I don't understand it. I just
This is it, man. It's either basketball season or you have to make a comparison about the past if you're Michigan State right now.
If we can go back in time and send him to New York, please.
Okay.
If Corum gets to New York, they are going to lose their minds, dude.
This is what we need. This is what we need. Okay. This is what I call the difference between Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy and what he brings, right? Because in this game, and something that I haven't seen a lot of is this was a very game manager-esque sort of game from JJ McCarthy, right? I feel like in the past, we've seen after sort of a game like this, a lot of frustration with where were the downfield shots, right? Why weren't we throwing the ball downfield? Why weren't we taking more risks? Where's the explosive plays? And JJ McCarthy in general was more of a game manager, a lot of shorter throws, taking what the defense gives you, not really challenging deep more than once or twice. But this is what he brings you, right? So he's, as you mentioned earlier, he's something like 90% accurate in short intermediate throws when not under pressure. It's excellent. This is the other avenue that he gives you, right? When you have a lot of numbers dropping back deep for Indiana, when everything out of your first and second reads aren't there, right? You notice a big gap, right? All these routes for Michigan are running players deep and away, right? It's not just that you have this route running deep here for Andrel Anthony. Both these routes are taking the defenders inside here, right? So I think this combined with the pressure, right? You're bringing a linebacker on pressure. You're bringing 5. This is your only guy in the center of the field. With that, when you take all of that into consideration here, right? At the time of decision here for JJ McCarthy, he's making a bet. I'm going to get here to the first down marker before this guy or any of these guys can break off and beat me to that spot, right? So that's what having a quarterback like that with his skill set gives you. When things aren't there, when Indiana calls a decent enough play to defend against the initial pass, right? You get that athleticism to get that first down. And this is, again, just a guy making a play. Good pass protection this time for Michigan. Sending inside, loop to the outside.
Much better job by Donovan this time.
Donovan Edwards does a good job recognizing, hey, this is where I need to get. So it's a good job. And Keegan recognizes that there is a guy to block and he's not running off in no man's land. So good execution, right? Because of that stunt, that opens the field here. And it's good recognition from JJ McCarthy. So kind of with that Corum run, right? You look at the routes down the field, not a whole lot of good options, right? Everything is relatively well covered up. You could argue maybe throwing a pass here, you got a good shot of completing that. But I like taking it on the legs here against a linebacker, right? If you're J.J. McCarthy. So that's what having him at the quarterback position can give you. And I like to see him making these sort of decisions relatively quickly and pick up that first down.
That's big growth from JJ. He knows his goal the entire time is to get to the marker, right? He's not looking to juke the defender out and make another cut. He's going for that marker. And that, I mean, that I don't know at the start of the year, that let alone last season. I don't know if that's something we would have seen from him. So that's a big deal, especially, we've been talking about if he has the trust of the coaching staff to run it as much as maybe we would like. That's earning trust right there. Great run from him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, 2nd and 9 here. Drop back pass. Again, using those legs of J.J. McCarthy. This is just improvisation, able to find Cornelius Johnson going across here. So I think this is also an interesting case of was this a called blitz or did Indiana fire off this motion, right? Kind of what I said earlier of whenever Michigan was running motion, traditionally they were running the ball. So you watch the reaction here of both linebackers. They're firing up really quickly. Is that in response to this motion? Not sure. Is anyone calling that out, right? This could just be called pressure, right? But because of both those linebackers blitzing right here, that's vacating a big area in the middle, right? And when you have Cornelius Johnson doing that, right, even though you have a free rusher here, again, not sure really what Zinter is looking at. I'm not sure why your right guard is looking out here when you have Carson Barnhart also here, right? So they're letting this guy through. He's got an easy shot at the quarterback here with this additional pressure that's being brought. But it's, again, really good recognition of J.J. McCarthy seeing probably this pressure coming and knowing that he's going to have a wide receiver going across the middle here. So that's something that, give him a lot of credit in the face of pressure, able to extend the play a little bit, right? He comes off of his initial read. It seems like he's reading this initial safety and seeing what the reaction here. His eyes are going to come off of that. If we move forward a little bit, his eye comes off of that and recognizes that he's got pressure, right? It's not from one of those linebackers, but because this is in his face right there, he's going to duck out. So I'm getting a phone call from my mom. Mom, I'll call you back. There's Michigan football to call. And then so he's rolling out to the right here as a result of that pressure. And then, at this point, it becomes a little bit of a scramble drill, right? So he recognizes, hey, there's no one following Cornelius Johnson, and boom, bang, bing, he's in the end zone. Really good run from Cornelius Johnson. So this is something where, again, you don't need to be using your legs on every single play for it to come in handy, right? You don't need to scheme with his legs for his legs to become a huge, huge plus. It's just a good play, right? Recognizing that there's pressure. When there's a lack of execution, you need a guy to make a play, right? Zinter, lack of execution. J.J. McCarthy makes the right move to move across there and makes that throw to Cornelius Johnson.
Big bounce back from him too. This was the drive where he had that brutal drop. So that was good to see him make the grab and get in the end zone in terms of just for his own confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's had a quiet season. So, again, getting him in these sorts of opportunities and these scenarios with an earlier drop in the game, that's big. And that's how you get on the field more, right? Not just making the catch, but making those extra moves just as little, that little juke right there. I was shocked he was able to get to the end zone, and it's a really great job from him to do so. Okay, 2nd and 8 here, 17-10. Good patience here. And again, really good pass protection for Michigan on this one. Only sending 4 here for Indiana, but it's a good job. A little chip there from Blake Corum at the bottom of the line as well. We don't really get – actually, I think we do have a better angle here. And this one is more about kind of what I was saying earlier of using your tight end to your advantage. Your tight end's been doing really, really well for you. And because of this crossing route that you'll see – out of your tight end here, that's going to stress a player on a deeper route here. They have from Andrel Anthony also sitting in that zone. So if we move forward here just a little bit, you can see the eyes for JJ McCarthy moving over to number 19. Number 19 is the crutch here. He is between two routes here, Andrel Anthony and your crossing route for Schoonmaker, right? Based on his reaction, if he's going to follow this, you're going to have a window over the top to Andrel Anthony. If he doesn't follow it, right, if this guy drops back here, then throw the crossing route, right? So it's making things simple. You see the eyes here on number 19, and he recognizes, hey, that guy's picking up the tight end. Look at that open zone that we'll have for Andrel Anthony, right? Parked like the Red Seas, because you also have this route for Ronnie Bell, this sort of deeper crossing route here, taking the other linebacker, number 5, across, right? So taking this across here, sitting him here, and bringing the tight end across. That's really stressing your linebackers, forcing them out of a given area to open up another route right here. So good execution, good eyes here from JJ McCarthy, recognizing that, and good pass protection, right? When you have all those things, quarterback is reading things correctly. It looks easy, right? When things are working out that way and you're able to pick apart a zone like that. So I think this is where it started kind of clicking for Michigan a little bit, recognizing that, hey, we don't have to just force the run all the time. Look at all these easy yards that we're getting here. And they take advantage of that on 2nd and 8.
Yeah, moving forward, something to notice here, with Roman Wilson out in this game early on, AJ Henning was starting in the slot, Johnson and Bell primarily still on the outside. They moved Bell into the slot in the second half. This is why we saw more of Andrel Anthony on the outside with that adjustment. So that'll be interesting to watch moving forward. Henning and Anthony, neither one's really gotten as much action as we thought they would. But now if they're kind of saying, hey, if we don't have Wilson, we're trusting Bell in the slot, you could see some more Anthony in plays like this.
Yeah, it's a good point too. And there was only real one deep shot. It's going to be interesting to see what sort of route combinations Michigan has without that speedster on the outside as well. So you might have to switch your approach a little bit and what routes and what shots you take without Roman Wilson in the lineup. We'll see if how that forms over the rest of the season here. Okay, 1st and 10 here. This is, I just had to include this because it was fun. All right. I don't really want to break this down. I just want to watch this highlight a couple times. You can't stop me. Okay. I'm just going to fast forward this. And again, what did I say about just setting up linebackers, right? So that one thing I'll break down here, watch Corum just pause, right? That patience right here, he's going to force this linebacker to commit, right? And because of that patience, because of the aggressive play of the linebackers, that extra patience will force this guy into that gap between your right guard and right tackle. Barnhart's able to pick that up. And then what do you have? You have your athlete in space, right? Good block from Schoonmaker, and boom, athlete in space, and he's going to Barry Sanders you, right? Like, that's just stupid. Like, that's just ridiculous. So it's not a huge pickup, right? Like, it's, what is that? 6 yard, 7 yard pickup there. But
instead of 2.
Oh yeah, it's huge when it comes to 2nd and 3 versus 2nd and 8, right? So this is what Blake Corum gets you, right? And they want them in this situation. If you're a safety in this situation, you don't want to be there.
That's filthy.
My knees would just absolutely be destroyed. So just an elite play, and get a guy like that in space, and it is terrifying. So it's fun, man. When you can make a safety just look that silly, it's a fun thing to have. So I'm just going to put this on repeat all night. And how Corum's knee doesn't explode here is ridiculous, right? His power to be able to make that cut defies the laws of physics. So I feel you, number one, for Indiana. No one wants to be there, buddy. So
this footwork's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. All right, a couple more plays. We'll go a couple minutes over if you got time, Trevor, for that. I think we got 3 more plays here. So this is just great wide receiver blocking, right? I feel like it's been a theme all year. This is aided by the aggressive play of number 0 here off the edge, right? So number 0 is coming flying off. This is just called flat route, and you got block and block, right? And that's all this is. Because of that aggressive play from number 0 here, all you really need is a couple blocks for this to work. and Michigan gets that, especially Ronnie Bell. And I really like this extra move from Schoonmaker, right? Where right here, he's just going to pause a little bit, and then he's going to go outside, right? So I don't know if he was really trying to set up this linebacker here, but he actually uses Ronnie Bell a little bit in cutting this to the outside to where this linebacker runs into this block as well. So Ronnie Bell sticking like glue on that wide receiver. Good job from Cornelius Johnson as well, staying as engaged, right? You'd like to see him a little bit tighter on that block on number 3, but he does enough, right? He does enough to make that defensive back's job really difficult against a tight end like that. So really well executed, right? Good, accurate ball, not outside of the frame so that Schoonmaker can just turn up right away, and then good enough blocks on the outside to take advantage of that. So I really like this initial move out of Schoonmaker as well, just kind of setting up inside before going out, right? That's just enough just to hold up your linebackers and get the eyes here just enough, right? If he's going out maybe immediately, you get a quicker reaction. Just that little stutter step, I think, can do a little bit more than you think on getting those linebackers to really react quickly there. So give a lot of credit. I think wide receiver blocking, one of the best traits of this Michigan offense, and that's such a huge asset for Michigan to have.
Yep. And oh wow, play action works, right? Go figure.
Yeah, exactly. All right, 2 more plays here. Let's get 24-10. What was that stat right at the start there? Total yards this half, right? 234-21. If that didn't tell you the story of the second half. Here again, using the legs of JJ McCarthy. Go down though, man. Don't scare me like that, okay? But again, striking the fear into the defense with that interior run. This is a good keep read for JJ McCarthy. He's reading number 5, right? Number 5, hell bent on coming off the edge here. Fake this action here and keep around the edge, right? 2nd and 4 here. You also have this sort of secondary read for this screen pass here. So a little bubble, block, right? And your second read is this guy if he follows. So you could argue he probably could have thrown this, but given the momentum of this guy and the momentum here, the keep and run is the right action here. Would like to see him cut this down a little bit instead of bubbling this out. See, those first steps are kind of horizontal there for JJ McCarthy. Would like to see him take this down the line of scrimmage. He may have been worried about this guy impeding this if he did go straight downhill here, but I think he could have done a little bit better job of working towards the line of scrimmage here initially. It takes a few steps to kind of widen that out a little bit. And then here, I would just argue just dive, right? Just you notice the momentum of the linebacker here. Just try to dive right towards this, right? 2nd and 4, getting into 3rd and inches. You trust your team on 3rd and 4th down and short to get there. Instead, doing a spin like this, how this wasn't looked at for targeting is pretty egregious to me. Again, the refs, not great. So never like to see your quarterback kind of make that interior spin like that. Was this targeting? It seems like that helmet is colliding with the shoulder pad, at least initially here. But even so, there is forcible contact to the head or neck area, I would say. For them to not even review this is pretty rough to me. So I don't know. You see on this angle afterwards, even Keegan is – I think I cut that off short. I think Keegan was calling for it. Let me see if I can actually get an angle of that. But I don't know why they didn't review it, right? If player safety is a big thing, right? You see there, number 77 here, kind of asking for it. Seems like you should err on the side of caution here and protect your players in this case.
It's weird too because he holds his arms out like he knows he might get called for falling on him. So right. Look, he doesn't even wrap him up. He throws his arms straight out and literally just tackles him with his helmet. Look at.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Yeah, I've seen much less called for targeting. That seems pretty textbook to me. So again, I don't have a good answer. I bet that's something
JJ can't spin, man. I don't know if he dominated doing that in high school or what. He did that against Ohio State too, and it's just so dangerous.
Yep. And again, it's something where know the situation, right? If this is 4th and 4, 3rd and 4 in a super tight game, right? All right, you got to spin, right? Sometimes you got to put your body on the line, and you can understand that. 2nd and 4 in a 14-point lead in opponent territory here, right? We saw other areas where he's been a little bit smarter when running the ball. Got to understand right here, hey, just dive forward, right? Just dive forward here, and you're going to still get the same yardage. You can't be the hero all the time, and protecting your body is what's best for the team, not an extra couple yards.
He left his feet too. God, that's bad. Okay.
Yeah, scary. Okay, final play here, 1st and goal. This is one that the refs got wrong, okay? They 100% got this one wrong. I like the play design. Indiana was called back for offensive pass interference earlier in the game, and this one the refs missed, right? Clearly you got blocking here for Ronnie Bell on the outside. And this is just a block this guy into this defensive back. What it's supposed to be is catch this right at the line of scrimmage where this block would be legal. And then, right, you got a lot of space. Look at all this space. You got 2 defenders here on the outside of the hash. You can cut inside, cut outside, make a play. With tendencies for Michigan here, they're running the ball got to be 80% of the time on 1st and goal here. So breaking that tendency a little bit, the issue is that throw is just a little bit in front, right? So I put this primarily on the quarterback. That throw takes the wide receiver past the line of scrimmage. Good block from Ronnie Bell, right? The play is there and it does what it accomplishes, but he's catching that a yard past the line of scrimmage, and that's offensive pass interference, right? So again, refs were not great either way. Michigan had a few plays that were called against them. This one goes against Indiana. In this case, 3 minutes left, 1st and goal. Probably a formality, right? A field goal gets Michigan into a 3-possession lead anyway. So the outcome of the game isn't looking much different if this is called, but not great. Not great.
Yeah, no, that Shadyville called it out as well, that CJ said he was supposed to catch it behind the line. So I'll take it. The refs were terrible. I'll take it.
Maddie says only 80% of the time. Do you think that's low?
For the running on 1st down?
Yeah. How often?
1st down and goal?
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to take the over, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably 90.
Yeah.
90%.
Probably a lot.
All right. Yeah. You got me there. You got me there, Maddie. But anyway, -1 for the refs. But hey, it benefited Michigan. So yay, touchdown.
Yeah, whatever. Fine.
Okay, that's it. We are.
That's the last one.
How many minutes? 8 minutes over. Oh,
that's not bad.
Long. That's okay.
We were like 50 over the first one. So
we were. We're getting better.
For sure, man.
All right. Final thoughts, Trevor.
I like to see the offense and the defense make adjustments that were extremely successful. We saw the yardage, right? I don't remember exactly what it finished at, but it was pretty close to that. Yeah. So we touched on the defense yesterday. Minter did a fantastic job adjusting, and then I believe the offense as well. We've seen it 2 weeks in a row now where Michigan's come out with a pretty good script. Granted, Corum made that first drive look a little better with his buku crazy run, but we saw a pretty good script. Michigan kind of settled into some tendencies in the first half. It's not unlike Harbaugh on a road game to I know we'd love them to come out and stop them, but Harbaugh tends to feel teams out for that first half and then try to make adjustments in the second half. So again, looking at the final score, looking at the numbers, looking at some of the analytics, watching some of the tape, I was anxious in that first half. When the game ended, I didn't feel great about it, but looking back, they made adjustments. They made the right adjustments. They executed better. They responded. So that's something that can now carry over into this week of prep for Penn State, where now we're making adjustments and execution corrections the week of the game and hopefully don't have to see any in the first half.
Absolutely. Yep. How can you come into a game a little bit better prepared and be a little bit quicker in those reactions? Give credit to Indiana. Thought they had a really good game plan on both sides of the ball. Michigan just adjusted better and I think just executed much better from the first to second half. It's good to see, right? When you're in adversity in a road environment, I don't care who it is, that's not the easiest thing to overcome. And Michigan showed that they were able to do that. 2 road wins in a row. You take that in the Big Ten and on to Penn State.
Absolutely. So, yeah, 6-0 heading to Penn State. Going to be arguably at this point looking like Michigan's second toughest game, easily the toughest on schedule so far this season. So we will be back again next week on Monday. If we have to do another 2-parter, I've got no problem with that, but we will be back Monday for sure to cover whatever the tale of the tape or the story of the game coming out of Michigan and Penn State is. So if you're watching here on YouTube right now, make sure you're hitting subscribe, make sure you're getting the notification bell for when we do go live. And like I said before, we've got podcasts every single day that are on this channel. Want to make sure you're staying up to date. Would love to have you at michigan.rivals.com. Subscribe, become a member. You can get access to a bunch of intel from Josh and Brandon, as well as be a part of our membership community in the Den. We are pretty proud of the community we built in that message board as well. Good debate, civil. It's just a great place to communicate with other Michigan fans. So we'd love to have you. Other than that, Toski, Wizard, again, great work, buddy.
Thank you, man. I'm going to get a wizard tattoo somewhere just for you.
It's got to be on the neck or face. Go Posty style, right?
There you go.
Oh, God. All right, man. All right, so thank you guys again. Appreciate the comments and the interaction. Always our goal to, again, make this for you and interact with you. So we look forward to seeing you next week.